Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. Hello everybody, this is Izabela from Gaiam Gardens, and today I want to show you how I made this tile display and how I made my test tiles. So this display is a perfect feature to have in the studio if you are a potter or if you're teaching classes. Likewise, it's useful for your own use, but it is incredible if you're showing it to students, to people who are new to pottery, because it is incredibly difficult for them to visualize how the finished product will look like. So when they come into the class, they don't know, and we often have pots and we can show them on the pots, but we can just show them little samples of the colors that you have in the studio for them to use and the clay types that you would like to use. So at the beginning of the project, before they even start committing to what they want to make, I show it to them and ask them, what kind of clay would you like? Because if somebody would like to make a bright color, then they would go for a white clay, and it can be really intimidating at first, and they might not understand what is the difference between white clay and red clay or black clay. But when they see the glazes and the difference that the glaze display after application, then they can really visualize what they're making a little bit better. So I find it really nice, and it also makes people excited, because seeing those beautiful, shiny, cute balls with the stamp gives them this vision, the end vision for their product. So it makes it more enjoyable for them to start the process. The nice thing about this display is that it's mobile, so I can take it out as I want to or need to. I can put it up on the wall if I want to as well. And I can take it with me when I'm going to teach classes outside of my studio. Let's say it fits nicely. Another cool thing is that it's not adhered to it for permanently, for good. So I can just take out the sample. Let's say my student says, oh, I really like the green. And then we can look at the green on the white clay. And we can look at the green, this is sun chiffon, on the black clay. So I can carry my samples and take them to the table, and they can also touch them. Being able to touch the glaze, to hold it in your hand and to feel, is a big part of making a decision what glaze to choose. Often when I make a decision about choice of the glaze for my bisque, I hold it next to the glaze tile to see the feeling, if I like the way it feels together. So let's check it out. Okay, do I like the green? Do I like the blue? Can you now imagine how it will look like? It's much easier to make that decision when you actually see it held up next to one another. Of course, those are the same balls, so it makes it even easier. But if you had any pot, it will give you a good idea of what it will look like. In some glazes, it is really a big difference between the clay bodies, like with this soft blue glaze. So knowing how the glaze behaves is really important. This is soft blue on white, soft blue on speckled, and soft blue on red clay. What I'm looking for is knowing specifically all different things that glaze can do on all sorts of different pots. And that is how I arrived at this design. My previous test tiles were not suitable to show me how the glaze behaves in a ball when it's pooling. Here is my old glaze tile that was inspired roughly by the shape of a glaze tile from my community studio. As you can see, it's a vertical and it's being fired standing up, and it shows the vertical behavior of the glaze very well. It shows me whether the glaze will pull down or whether it's safe to have it thicker. It shows me how the patterns and textures in the glaze behave with its application. It shows me a little bit how it behaves on the breaking points. This I would not call pulling because it is vertical, so it does not pull there. It's still a vertical action. And I had a need to find out how the glaze behaves in the ball and also how it behaves when it's vertical. So in this new design, we have both. We have a little ball that shows the texture on the bottom and the pooling of the glaze. And we have a vertical wall that also shows the texture. So we can see the glaze, how it behaves when it pulls down on a vertical wall, how it behaves when it pulls in the bottom of the ball, and also how it behaves when it's breaking on the sharp edge. So those are different behaviors of glazes in any pots that you can make. So when you use this design, you can safely assess and figure out how the glaze will behave on whether you're making bowls, mugs, plates, sculptures, something with a smooth texture. You'll see the smoothness on some sides or here. And you will have a really good database of glaze behavior so you can make an informed decision. Let's see how those test tiles are done. There are all the things I'm going to be using. I have my ruler, a simple template to measure out the vertical walls easily, cutting knife, a cookie cutter, a rounded stamp that will form a ball automatically, sponges, rib, texturing rib, clay, matching slip and score tool, a bat to put them on, and clear sticks to use as guides, and of course a roller, every potter's best friend. When this happens and the clay gets stuck to the fabric, all you need to do is flip it. Make sure you straighten the fabric underneath. Then do another roll. Now we're gonna cut the circles. Have room for 2. And we'll place them directly on the sponge. We'll give it a little bit of a ribbing action. Remove the texture from the tablecloth. And then we'll place the stamp directly in the middle and press, applying the pressure from the body. That's how the ball is formed. You can rotate the stamp so all the sides are nicely imprinted. Very nice. Next, we're gonna reuse the leftover clay to form the vertical walls. Rib it a little bit. Rib it, rib it, rib it. First, the texture. So I'm just going to use this cake forming tool that somebody gave me for like pastries to make little waves. And then go kind of opposite. Now we're going to take our template. And actually, I will not need a ruler here. I'm just gonna mark this here first. You can cut that one. Okay, and before I remove the top, I removed the template, but I'm keeping this because this will be my guide for the size. And now I can remove this part. I will curve them ever so slightly and place them vertically like this. This. And let it stiffen a little bit before attaching. And we are going to score over here. And on the side of the vertical wall. And then apply the slip. And connect them. And here on this side, I'm gonna press this a little bit more to make sure the joint is secure. It doesn't matter to me that it's like super nice and smooth, but if you like it like that, go for it. And the last step is to use a damp sponge to soften the edges, especially those sharp edges here. We want to make sure that when people touch it, it's a pleasant experience and they won't hurt themselves. I'm just collapsing a little bit, so I'm just gonna push it in more. Okay, and now we're ready for the holes. So I'm just gonna use my hole puncher. Clean that bit of clay. Soften that so it doesn't become sharp either. I cleaned up the hole puncher. Now they're ready for drying and being put in the kiln. And for glazing, we are going to first write the name of the glaze on the back. So this is turquoise. And to write it, I'm using the Amaca Underglaze black lead-free pencil. And we're gonna just dip the test tile just the way it falls. Move it a few times up and down before you lift it. As you can see, the wax is right there. cover that spot. I assembled the tiles by threading a piece of wire through the holes and pushing it in, and then on the other side of the tile crossing the wire and then twisting it to form one uniform wire. I then use the wire cutters to cut the excess on the bottom and make it more smooth, and use my pliers to form it into a loop. I then was able to place them directly into the chicken wire and hang them in rows, making sure that I have all the clay bodies in each row. So I started from the white clay and then the speckled, warm, or which was the red clay, and then the black clay at the bottom. This is it. This is the entire process of creating the test tiles for the display. To make a display itself, you can use an old frame and get the chicken wire and just use the staple gun to attach it to the frame. And then you can hang them on that chicken wire. This is a really fun project and one of those things that I consider like a little gem that I discovered after years and years of doing pottery, trying different things, seeing different test tiles, and eventually coming into this compilation of what works best for me and in my studio and what works best for my students. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please let me know if you try to create those test tiles in the same way, and if you create your test tiles in a different way. I'm curious to hear what your method is. I know some people get really into testing and they have tons and tons of organized glazes, glaze samples. I'm not really that advanced with my glazing. It's really simple for me. I just use few glazes, and I have also created some samples for myself to see how each glaze interacts with one another. All those glaze combos are in the bin, and then I can check how each glaze reacts with the next. For example, this was not my favorite. So if I get the idea to use white and grape again, I'm like, oh, no, I don't think so. But for the display, I just used one single glaze. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.